interesting presentation. Now we have Mala Subramaniam. She is CEO of Argyam, a foundation established with an endowment from Rohini Nilekani in 2005 to focus on safe and sustainable water and sanitation for all. Mala is an alumnus of IIM Calcutta and has over 2 decades of experience in the banking, education, agro-technology, ITES and non-profit sectors across various countries. And now she's the first CEO of Argyam. And she'll take you through what Argyam's vision is and how they are implementing it. Thank you.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Rolling up to the big picture from the excitement on the ground, I believe comes at a price. Nothing I can say, nothing I can ever say will come close to the emotional connect that we can make with what Vishwanath had to say, or what Popat Rao ji had to say, or what Shanta Sheila Nair said. But the good thing is that all of these doyens have been part of our ecosystem. They are our friends, philosophers and guides. And as Argyam, I represent Argyam, which is a foundation which is a donor organization that works in safe, sustainable water. Some of these doyens have been our partners in crime as well. That said, I think my objective today is to really take us through the journey of Argyam, talk about some of the learnings of the past 7 years, and talk about some of our thinking going into the future and how you can participate in that thinking. I think this is a complex, wicked problem. All of us have probably over-understood that. We need everyone to think about it, engage with it, act on it, and that's really the request and the ask, that how can Argyam as a small foundation be more of an amplifier, more of a catalyst to just do that. So bear with me while I take you through some of the slides. I warn you, it's not nearly as exciting as what you might have seen earlier today, but it's probably just useful for you to see how we are just wrapping all of this together. So that's about Argyam. This is, as Ramchu said, it's a foundation set up in 2005 by Rohini Nilekani. The focus is on domestic water and sanitation, and over the years, over the last 7+ years, we have worked in 90 projects across 22 states. The focus for the last so many years has been rural, but going forward we see urban as a big focus as well. We have a knowledge sharing platform in the India Water Portal. A lot of you must probably be aware of that, and that's a big investment for us to connect with the water world and hopefully citizens at large. Our activities largely cover the life cycle of research, grants, model building, programs and advocacy, and pretty much in various projects we are at various stages of doing that work. Why water? I don't want to go into that. I think the immediacy and the urgency of how water impacts life and livelihoods is why we believe we have picked up domestic water as an area of engagement. Again, a lot has been talked about this. I just want to say that the scene is looking fairly grim. We are talking of large abuse of groundwater. Groundwater is being used but not really talked about. It's yet to be mainstreamed into the water thinking. That's a growing area of concern for us. Of course, there are enough and more conflicts, agriculture, industry, domestic trade-offs, and all of those things which are a big cause for concern. There are issues, and there are issues, supply side, demand side. There's political, institutional, social, technological. I've talked about some of them here. Again, I really don't want to repeat. Some of this has been seen already. Lots of impact from water quality, the equity issues. There is resource degradation. I think this is important. Groundwater depletion and contamination is a big issue. Pollution is a big issue. And of course, water conflicts we've already spoken about. Governance, there's fragmented authority. I think at last count we said we did a rough totting up of 13 ministries which have something or the other to do with water. So that's an issue. Again, there's central, state, and then when it devolves down to the local self-government at the Gram Panchayat level, there are capacity issues. And RGM is directly dealing at each of these levels, and hence we are aware that there are institutional, systemic things that need to be worked upon, even if we want to deal with the issue of water. There's the problem of data, there's a problem of policy, there's a problem of regulation, and of course there's the citizen awareness issue that affects the quality and quantity of water. What is the role of foundations? I think very simply, we believe that we bridge what the state and markets cannot do. So we are essentially catalysts. There's only so much that we can impact, and so we have to use our money and time meaningfully. We are a donor organization, so we have to choose our area of focus. Our area of focus is the poor and the vulnerable. We believe we provide risk investment, so we have the ability to invest in new ideas and innovations, and that's where we want to focus. We have the ability to focus systematically on a problem. So we look at data, we look at advocacy, we look at governance issues, people's participation, perhaps in a way that NGOs cannot look at. We create networks, we strengthen civil society, and we invest in people. But all of this ultimately we believe should fold into the country's developmental agenda. And I think that's really where we are after 7 years. That yes, we've done lots of good work in pockets, but how does it all fold into the macro picture? I think that's really what our engagement with is at this point in time. Some guiding principles of our work. Decentralized options, we believe that is the way to go. I think we talked about that in the morning. 20 years ago, the scene would have been very different. Today, we think the options have to focus more on decentralized solutions. Source protection is something that we care strongly about. Conjunctive use, we're talking of surface water, recharging groundwater. Closing the loop is also a principle that we are very, very close to. Participatory, I think we want community and citizens to participate in their own decisions so they can sustain it. And equity and fairness is something that will always be central to the work that we do. Our approach is an and approach, not an or approach. We believe that there's always a menu of options to choose from, and depending on the context and the situation, choices have to be made. So we are not here to prescribe. We have invested, and I will show that to you shortly. We've invested in many projects which are very, very different and offer different solutions to different contexts, and we believe all of them have a place. So top down, bottom up, sideways, we engage in all of those. Central, state, local governments, we talk to lawmakers, we talk to citizens. We have data geeks and technology in our ecosystem. We also have grassroots practitioners. We work with lone rangers, we also work with large NGOs. So it's complex, like I said, and so we believe that the more the merrier, we have to encourage, and that's really been our DNA over the years. That's a rough idea of our footprint, 22 states, 43 crores. The blues are where we are somewhat underinvested. Most of our work has been so far in the south and the west. Our ecosystem touches all of these. I don't think there's a need for me to overemphasize this. Because we look at all aspects, we end up touching all of these constituents, and hence our work in many ways is really difficult because we are talking many different things to different people, and hence putting it all together is indeed a big task. This is going to look a little psychedelic, so I do apologize. We wanted to paint the landscape of the intersects of, although we deal with water, what are the intersects that we have necessarily to deal with while we talk water. So this will give you an idea of the complexity of the nature of just domestic water and what we have over our 7 years seen. So just do bear with me. This is a representation of all the intersects and areas that we have worked in while keeping water as central. So drinking water is our area of interest. Because that impacts health, we have gone into sanitation. Because everything needs funds, we have also dealt with the area of how do we enable this environment, and revolving funds has been an experiment that we have worked with. We've looked at plantations, we've looked at governance and village water and sanitation committees and how that can be made sustainable. We have worked with livelihood and therefore agriculture as an intersect. We worked with urban watersheds. We worked with schools and drinking water in schools. We worked with gender equity issues, women's empowerment. Moving a little away, we've also worked with nutrition. We've worked with Gram Panchayats and local departments, electricity and the nexus, irrigation, demand reduction, water basin management, university curriculums to impact the understanding of hydrogeology, waste reuse, government convergence, springs, local self-help groups, hygiene, behavior change communication and sanitation. That's a big area of work for us. Water conflicts and laws and regulations. So that just kind of paints a picture of all the kind of interoperable forces that affect drinking water, just the area of drinking water and sanitation. And our projects, somewhere or the other, have worked in all of these areas, opportunistically, philanthropically, and now we have picked all of that up, and we believe that we have to look at it more as a legacy. And I'll tell you how, going forward, we want to look at the work that we are doing. Some of the results, just top numbers: 4,500 villages, 22,000 water structures, 13,500 toilets, 4,500 solid waste management efforts, and 500 village and water sanitation committees. I think a lot of our partners, we work through partners, have been on the 12 plan committees. The aquifer mapping allocation that has come has been largely through our partner efforts, and we've got a lot of publications in the area of water research. Some of our grants work. Like I said, we work in water security. This is a rainwater harvesting structure. Farm pond, quickly take you through this. Dug well, participatory Gram Panchayat meeting. This is a village map that was actually drawn by the citizens and where they want to place what. This is a Rajasthan image. I think this is what perhaps Farhad would have shown if he was there this morning. Some traditional water structures in Rajasthan. Testing of water quality. Arsenic and fluoride are very focused areas of our effort. Over time, we believe that those are two areas that require more visibility, and so going forward, we have internally decided to focus on arsenic and fluoride within water quality. So, the interesting part here is that we actually engaged with schools and asked for their participation in testing water quality and reporting back results, and that became quite a fun thing for them to do, and I think 1,500 schools gave back data, so that was very useful for us to actually test the idea of crowdsourcing of water quality. This is the participatory groundwater management effort that I briefly spoke about. Here we are using the concept of hydrogeology and mapping that with the social and commercial ecosystem within a localized watershed. We have 4 partners looking at different typologies who are currently working in this environment, and they are primarily looking at creating barefoot hydrogeologists who are 10th standard, 12th standard pass citizens who will learn the art of mapping and will actually come out with hydrogeological maps that will help make investments in water structures, recharge and discharge water structures, and therefore manage the water more efficiently, and in a participatory manner actually decide how much will be reserved for drinking water, how much will be used for agricultural water, and how they will manage this institutionally. So this experiment is going on with 4 partners in water-stressed areas, and we've actually added a water surplus area in Bihar as well to this now. So we'll have 5 partners working in the area of participatory groundwater management. It's a big project for us, and I think this will give us a lot of insights into how, as a society, as a community, we can actually agree to share the common pool resource. Sanitation, like I said, because water quality is important for us, we've gotten into sanitation. We worked in various designs and models. We also participated with the Government of India, the Nirmal Bharat Yatra, which was jointly funded by RVM as well as the Gates Foundation. And here the idea was really to raise mass awareness around hygiene and sanitation. It was done very innovatively through games and through local level participation. The big highlight was the menstrual hygiene lab, where there was a lot of participation amongst the adolescent girls. It was a big hit as part of the yatra. This was a 5-state yatra, starting in Maharashtra, ending in Bihar. Governance, again, is a big area of investment for us. We've looked at urban as an integrated model and worked in Mulbagal, which is a town east of Bangalore, and did a lot of intensive research on how an urban body can actually reimagine its water and sanitation system. Some snippets from that work. This is a data map that's throwing out some interesting information about Mulbagal. I think it's self-explanatory, but what it says it really is that while the inside of the town, the water table is rising and it's contaminated, the over-extraction is happening around its rim. And the hydrogeological study of this actually showed that there's an underground dike that's preventing water outflow from happening. So that really explains why the inside of it is getting contaminated. So the whole arrangement and the thinking of attacking the water and sanitation in Mulbagal probably had to have a shift. And this is very interesting for both the authorities as well as us to understand how this is happening and what can be done about it. So basically that shows the power of data and how data can inform decision making. Some of the other things that we found in Mulbagal, that we can have efficient technologies that will pay for themselves, community involvement and how communities' water assets and sanitation assets can be made to work effectively, schools, rainwater harvesting, solid waste management and how that affects groundwater quality. Resurrecting Kalyanis was a big part of this work. Kalyani is really a temple tank. So this was a picture of the temple tank before we started work. And you can see how it transformed itself. This is the picture now, and it's really almost a tourist spot in the town, and other Kalyanis are wanting to participate in this cleaning up exercise. So it's a good role model. Research, like I said, we do research and advocacy. Some of the research work we've done, we did an intensive survey of 29 districts covering 17,200 households on water and sanitation. Threw up some interesting results, and now we are processing the results and trying to see what we can do with it. Working with government, we've done a lot of projects with the government. We believe ultimately scale will come with the government. So ongoing project, we just signed an MOU with the government of Karnataka to study an innovative behavior change exercise in sanitation, and we've tied up with a corporate body that actually looks at applications of neuroscience in the area of solving social problems. And one of their solutions for unmanned crossings here in Wadala has been based on the basic premise that the brain underestimates the speed of large objects. So just by shifting at the point of problem, the brain from looking at estimating speed to estimating distance, they managed to reduce deaths at unmanned crossings from 10 to 1. So we are working with this partner actually to look to see if we can do some innovative behavior change communication at the point of action in sanitation. So these are things that are kind of occupying us. Advocacy, like I said, we've been on all the, our partners have been on all the planning commission committees. We've influenced the water policy. India Water Portal is an initiative that RKM funds, and most of you would have seen that. It's a digital commons, and we want it to be, today it's probably talking to all the water practitioners and water enthusiasts, and going forward we want to engage more of the community in that, and that's really an ask, how do we do that, what will it take to catalyze and enable that is a big area of interest for us. Just throwing some data stories. This is a depiction from one of our partner areas of work. I mean, this just shows that overall this aquifer is in a overexploited block. This particular aquifer is actually safe. So you cannot make investment decisions based on a macro. You will have to get down to the actual aquifer mapping before you can take any kind of decisions on recharge and discharge. So this is a good example of how we can actually end up making wrong decisions if data is not right. So this is another example in the same partner site, that while it's a shallow aquifer, it has similar characteristics like a deep aquifer. So I'm not getting into technicalities, but what it means is that just by saying that this is shallow aquifer, therefore it should have these characteristics, perhaps is an assumption that we should not make. We've participated in water hackathons. We've actually been responsible in many ways for activating the data, open data community in Bangalore for sure. We ran the open data camp last weekend. There was a lot of enthusiasm from data enthusiasts, including the government. We had representation from the data.gov.in from New Delhi. So we are closely working with them. The hydrometeorological data dissemination policy draft was out yesterday. Some of it, I mean, it's not everything that we want it to be, but it's definitely a start. And I think Anurabha was talking about some of the issues, but this one talks about some of the things that are positive. It explains CWC's idea of data sharing within the National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy. Who collects what data, what categories of users exist, what is classified, what is not. So they're definitely a starting point, and at RKM we're very interested in continuing that dialogue with the government. Focus for the coming years, we want to understand and mainstream groundwater thinking. I think it's there, 85% of drinking water is groundwater, but it is not mainstreamed, and that is something that we want to work in. Like I said, behavior change communication, innovative experiments is what we are wanting to engage with, but at scale, so we are working with an MOU with the state government for this. We are interested in citizen engagement through data stories, media partnerships, volunteering, etc. as an area of focus. And we want to look at urban with a focus on census towns. We believe the bigger towns are difficult for us, so we want to look at how we can catalyze thinking and reimagining census towns. We're shifting from pure opportunistic work to more programmatic longer-term grants. So going forward, our idea will be to invest deeply in areas of groundwater, in behavior change communication and sanitation, and in citizen engagement, apart from census town and small town urban. In terms of ideas, more government partnerships, more systematic participatory understanding of what is participatory, what makes that take, the marrying of science and social. So that's the understanding, and that's the framework that we want to invest in. Networks, so we have seeded networks, the arsenic and fluoride networks. We've actually funded the Secretariat, and we believe that that will then spawn off a network reaction that will amplify the impact of the work that we are doing. Co-donor funding is again a big area of focus, because as we scale up, we have to look for other investors in the same project, so that's something that, again, will be an area of focus going forward. So So that's it. I hope that painted a picture of what RGM does. Yesterday, I think there was a little bit of confusion on do we favor RO or don't favor RO. I think we are basically neutral. We are saying we don't favor one or the other. We believe in a menu of options, and really it's up to the user to select what he or she thinks